Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie. In this video I have decided that I want to go through all of my foundations, as you can see. I'm basically going to do sort of a declutter, but I'm going to do it in a review format where I basically try every single foundation on, give you like my review of it. Some of these foundations I've basically already made my mind up about, but it's just kind of to show my opinion to the camera is why I'm doing this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show me applying all of these foundations, and then I'll kind of show you how they look at the end of the day, give you all of my thoughts on them, and then after that I will tell you if I'm going to get rid of it or if I'm going to keep it. So this is like my main foundation drawer at the moment. I am kind of like in the process of sorting out how I want to organise my makeup, which is why this just kind of looks like a load of foundations all over the place. I've also got 4 foundations up here. These ones I'm like pretty much certain that I'm going to get rid of these because I'm not mad about them, but I will try them again for this video and give them like one last chance. So I've got 4 more here. I've got all the ones in this drawer. Up at where my actual makeup vanity is, I've got the L'Oreal Infallible and the MUA Pro Base foundation, because these ones I tried in April, so I keep these up here because obviously I'm still trying to like try them and get my review of them for when I do my updated makeup recap. And then today I did just get the CYO matte foundation No Shine Zone, which is going to be in my May's full face first impressions. And I've also ordered the E.L.F foundation because I'm going to do full face of testing E.L.F makeup. That in total is all of the foundations I have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with like the ones up here in my drawer, just because I'm trying to review these anyway. Yeah, I'm going to start with the L'Oreal Infallible today. I have worn this will be my 4th time wearing it today. I wore this yesterday and it was my first time like properly looking at how the wear was, and I was really impressed, so hopefully the same thing happens today when I show it on camera. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and apply the L'Oreal Infallible 24-hour fresh wear. Mine's in the shade Porcelain. It's the lightest shade. Okay, we're back and ready to try out L'Oreal Infallible fresh wear. Obviously my first impressions of this is already on my channel. I'll put a card up here. So this video is obviously going to be split up into multiple parts. I don't know like how many foundations I'll put in a video, maybe like 10 per video, we'll see. So I'm just going to film me applying it, and then I'll do like the rest of my makeup off camera. Yeah, so this L'Oreal Infallible one, from first impressions I really like it. I obviously tried it a couple of times. It's a really nice foundation. I think this could become one of my drugstore favourites, especially just after seeing how well it wore yesterday when I was using it, so hopefully it does the same thing today and that wasn't just a fluke. Yeah, I definitely think the colour is, yeah, I mean like maybe it's a tiny bit dark, but not to the point where it's like really noticeable. But yeah, so far from trying this, I think the finish is like really nice. It has got like such a fresh finish like the name would suggest. Right, so that is the L'Oreal applied to my face. There's pretty much one layer, but then I built it up a bit like around my mouth area and a little bit more on my nose. Yeah, I really like the finish of this. I just don't find that it accentuates my texture too much. I mean, everything does slightly because that's just the nature of having texture on your skin, but I feel like this is one of the better ones for texture. I just really like how it looks. It just looks really fresh. It looks natural, like it doesn't look like a really obvious layer of foundation on my face, if that makes sense. But like the coverage is pretty good. Like as I said, it's not full coverage. It's like a medium to high medium coverage, I'd say, which to be fair, that is kind of my preference the majority of the time. I mean, sometimes I do want some banging coverage. Other times I want something a bit more lightweight, but I feel like on a regular basis, this is the coverage that I prefer. A bit close to the camera just so you can see like how it sits on my skin, just in case you notice anything that I don't notice, but I personally just really like how it looks. It is more of like a radiant foundation, but it's not overly oily at the same time, which is great. That's kind of the best balance in my opinion. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish off my makeup. And to conceal, I'm going to use Jouer Essential High Coverage with a little bit of Makeup Obsession Mega Concealer in white to mix with it, just because Duet is a little bit dark for me. It's a shade Lace. And then if I can get the lid open, I'm going to set it with this Maybelline Matte Maker in Classic Ivory, which I've just got a new one of. So I'll show you like my finished makeup, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end of the day. It is just before 3 PM, going to work at 5, finishing at 10. So we'll get at least a 7-hour wear test with this. Getting back with the rest of my makeup done, I actually used the NYX HD finishing powder instead of the Maybelline one because I couldn't get the freaking lid off it. So this is my finished makeup. I'm still really liking how this foundation is looking. I mean, it's pretty much a no-brainer at this point that I'm obviously keeping this foundation. First of all, because I literally just bought it and I need to try it for my makeup recap, but second of all, I really like it anyway, so I will not be getting rid of it. Right, so it's about 7.5 hours later and absolutely knackered. Just one of those shifts, just one of those damn shifts. I'm beyond impressed with how this foundation wears. The only place that is really I have got a few like marks on my face just from like, so it was like our delivery day at work, and like we kind of move these cages around and sometimes they can get quite dirty, so I end up with like random like black marks and stuff on my face, so ignore those. The only place it's obviously broken down is, and this is gonna be the case with all of these like little mini wear tests, is that my nose. I think I'm actually starting to get a cold, but even when I don't have a cold, I just have a really irritated nose all the time, so I'm either just rubbing it constantly or blowing it constantly, so it's never going to wear well like on my nose and just kind of like just the area kind of around my nose. And sometimes when I eat as well, it does kind of wear off like around like my mouth a bit. Honestly, this has held up so well. Like my forehead actually looks so good. Like my forehead, I feel like looks pretty much the same as like when I applied it, and like all these parts, I mean, there's a little bit of like pore sinkage here, but again, I think that might be like just because it's quite close to where I've been rubbing my nose. This wears really well. Like, best wearing foundations I found are the W7 Matte Made in Heaven and Singing in the Rain, and honestly I think that this could potentially be on that level. I think I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of wear for now. I might change my mind and give it a 9 later, but for now I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of wear. Like, beyond impressed with how this wears. Like, my skin, foundation does not wear well on my skin, so it's never gonna look, even like the best wearing foundations are not gonna look great after like a long period of time, because I just have one of those types of faces where foundation just doesn't like to stay on it. Yeah, I'm so impressed. I'll get a little bit closer to the camera just so you can see what I'm seeing, hopefully. That's my forehead. Really does not look that bad at all. And obviously, yes, there is a little bit of pore sinkage around this area, but not really that bad compared to some foundations. Again, I have got a bit of a black mark around my mouth here, but yeah, really good. Yeah, really impressed with this foundation. I think this might become one of my new favourite foundations, so obviously a no-brainer that this is staying in my collection, not going anywhere. I do like to rate my foundations in like 3 categories, so obviously I've just told you where, giving it that an 8.5. For finish, I think I'll give that an 8, and for coverage I'll give it a 7.5 for coverage. Yes, that's my rating, which pretty high rating. I think we're off to a good start here. Do really recommend this foundation, really nice foundation, and I'll see you for foundation number 2, which I think is going to be that MUA one, just because that's in my rotation at the moment. Okay, so on to foundation number 2. As I said, I'm going to do the MUA Pro Base Longwear Matte Finish Foundation next. Mine's in the shade 101, and I have got a review up for this. And in that review, I have a lot of mixed thoughts on this foundation. I've worn it either once or twice since then. And again, I'm not in love with this foundation. I did notice when the last time I wore it that there was something like just a bit strange about the finish. Like, obviously I pointed out that I didn't like it under my eyes in that review, but the last time I actually used it just like all over my face, I noticed I didn't really like how it looked everywhere. So in that video I said like the best way for me to use it was to do like my under eye makeup first and then just have it kind of basically on the outer parts of my face, and that's the best way I found to use it. But obviously, because this is a review, I'm gonna have to put it under my eyes because I want to kind of show all of the foundations like how I would normally apply them in this video. What I might try doing is just putting like a little bit less on, because I do feel like when I've used it I've maybe put like a little bit too much on. So maybe I'll just go in with like a little bit less than I normally would. I also have problems that this doesn't really stick to my nose, so I will see if it does that today. I assume it probably will. Okay, we'll start with like that amount, which is less than I'd normally put on. And I'm just blending in with a sponge as I normally would. Okay, so I've tried to put less on, but the thing is when you put less on, you're not going to get as nice coverage. And the thing that I did like about this foundation was that when I obviously put more on, the coverage is really nice, but the level of coverage it is now, like I just want more than that, you see? Like, yeah, I don't know, like there's something like it's about the finish of it. It's a little bit, like I can't pinpoint what it is exactly, but it doesn't look super smooth, like it looks a little bit gritty on the face. Not just under my eyes, but like kind of everywhere, there's just like a slight sort of grittiness. And again, it sits really weirdly on my nose, and that like a little bit of product will stay on it, but it just looks kind of patchy, and it really doesn't sit well around these like kind of bits around my nose. Yeah, and again, I just don't really like how it sits on the eyes. It's just a bit gritty looking, this foundation. Is the best word I can think of here. I'm gonna have to layer it a little bit just because I want a little bit more coverage, but I'm cautious of putting too much on and it looking a bit cakey. It just goes so patchy on my nose. I don't understand it. It's so weird. Why I've never, like, no other foundation does that. I don't know, I just don't love this foundation, if I'm honest. Yeah, there's some nice coverage, but again, you have to put a lot on to get that coverage. I want to like this foundation, but I don't. I'll comment on this foundation one more time when I do my April-May makeup recap. But after that, I don't think I want to keep this foundation, if I'm honest. Like, obviously I'm going to keep it until I do that video. Obviously I'm going to do a wear test because I'm going to do that with all these foundations. I didn't really feel like I had bad issues with the wear of this. Right, so I've finished off, used the Too Faced Born This Way concealer and NYX HD translucent powder to set. I did find that there's this weird like patch. I don't know if your camera's going to see it, where it just went really like patchy, which is really odd. Like, I don't know if it's like a concealer and foundation thing, but it was like before I set my makeup that I noticed it. So yeah, also maybe some patchiness with this foundation too. Obviously I'm gonna go out today. Like, I don't hate how my skin looks. Like, I could leave the house like this and be fine, but it's not my favourite. I think like adding concealer definitely helps this because I really like that Too Faced concealer. I'll just do a like close up of the camera. Obviously I have like set it with powder. But yeah, I definitely feel like concealer and a bit of powder does make it look a bit better, definitely. Anyway, I'll be back at the end of the day to show you how this wears. Okay, so it is later. So when I did my review, I said that it wore really well on my forehead, but my forehead does not look good today. Like, it's probably one of the worst areas where it's separated really badly. I'll just show you that up close, just like right like in the middle. It's just separated really badly, which it definitely didn't do when I was reviewing it, because when I reviewed it, I commented on how it actually looked really good on my forehead, so that's a bit confusing that it's done that this time. That's very weird. These parts of my face, and honestly, like, kind of near where my pore is, like, the closer it gets to my nose, the worse it gets, but honestly, these parts actually have held up really well. Obviously, it's completely come off my nose, because this is always going to happen. It has started to separate on my chin a bit as well. Don't know if you can see that, but these, like, whole kind of parts here of my face, I think they've worn really well. So it's a bit like 50-50 on the wear, because it really does not look good on my forehead, but it does look good, like, up to, like, here. Obviously, it's not going to look good on my nose, because nothing is, so I can't take it away anything for that. So it's kind of like half my face that's worn really well, and half of it hasn't. So that makes me a bit confused on what to give it for wear. So for coverage, I think I'll give it a 7.5 for coverage. Like, it does have good coverage, but you do just have to put a lot of it on to get to that level. So I think I'll give it a 7 or 7.5. Editing me will decide. Finish, I'm gonna give it 5, I think, just because of all the things that I pointed out with it. I'll give it 5, maybe 4, somewhat 4 or 5. Let's go 4.5 for finish. And wear, I'll give it a 6.5, just because it has worn good in some areas, but my forehead, it looks really bad. Overall, I think once I've done my April-May recap, I think I am going to get rid of this foundation. That's probably going to be one of the first ones that I declutter, because the whole point of this video is that I'm going to tell you if I'm going to keep it or if I'm going to get rid of it. So after I've done my April-May video, it will be going. It doesn't have enough redeeming qualities for me to want to reach for it a lot, but I will give it a couple more goes over this month. Okay, so I've now tried all of my like May first impression foundations. Basically, I've got the CYO matte foundation, no shine zone. Used about 2 or 3 times, I think. So we'll do this one next so that I can kind of finalise my thoughts on this. First of all, the shade range of this is absolutely awful. This shade is like quite significantly darker than my skin tone, and it is the lightest shade, I believe. So I'm gonna have to put a little white mixer in. I'm gonna use the E.L.F mix to match adjuster. This, it's a white one. So yeah, I've tried this a few times so far. My thoughts on it are kind of mixed. I think the coverage of it is really nice. Like, it definitely does have really nice coverage, like a solid high medium coverage, which is my preference really. So I like the coverage. The finish, like, it looks quite smooth. It looks quite buttery. I wouldn't say it emphasises the texture too badly, like all foundations do, obviously, but it doesn't do it too badly. While I'm talking, I'm just going to mix this on my hand. I don't know, part of me thinks it looks a little bit heavy, like a little bit like kind of cakey in the skin. It's just very noticeable that it's there. So it's not my favourite finish, but then it's not my worst finish yet either. And the times I have used it, like, I've not examined the wear too much, but I feel like I did look at the mirror at the end of the day and it didn't look great. But we're going to properly test that out today. I think even if I put loads of bloody white mixer in this, it's still too dark. It's just one of them sort of situations. Yeah, I literally put loads of white mixer in that and it still looks too dark, but it will have to do. So I'm obviously going to do this foundation and the E.L.F one, and then I think I'll just go back to my collection. Obviously, it's like coming near the end of May when I film this, so I'm going to have my June foundation soon as well, which is going to be the NARS Sheer Glow. Okay, so I'll give you a close-up of this. So the thing is, I can't really fault the coverage. I think the coverage is really nice. In fact, I would say kind of like a low fold coverage, really. Like, it just covers everything that you want covered. Another thing with this foundation though is that it's very like noticeably oily on the skin, which, I mean, I don't care about that too much just because I don't have naturally oily skin, so that's not a huge problem thing for me. But obviously it's getting a bit warmer now, so I don't know, maybe that could be an issue if I'm wearing this like all day outside. I just feel like it just looks a bit like heavy and a bit just like obvious on my face. I mean, when I look at it, and I feel like the oils kind of contribute to that. Like, I just feel like sometimes when the foundation's really oily, it kind of makes it look heavier, if that makes sense. Is that just me? I mean, I would say it's quite smooth looking. Like, it's definitely got a really like buttery texture. I'll just give you a closer up. I mean, you can really kind of see the bloody oils on there, but I mean, I think the finish is pretty nice other than the oiliness. It does sit in my pores like a little bit, but not too badly compared to some foundations. It's just a bit heavy on the skin, that's all I can really say. So I'm gonna go finish off the rest of my makeup and I'll be back. Okay, so I finished my makeup. I used the E.L.F Camo Concealer under my eyes and the Too Faced Born This Way Sculpting Concealer. My nose and then my blemishes, and then I set NYX powder, NYX Translucent HD powder under my eyes, and the MAC Studio Fix on the outer parts of my face. So this is how we're looking. Like, again, I just feel like it looks nice, like I'm covered. Colour's a little bit off, like it's not too bad. We're back in like 7 hours, I think. I don't know, it'll be a decent wear test. It has been a long ass, tiring day at work. I'm gonna need a swig of the inhaler. Alright, so it's like 10:30, and I think it was probably about 2:30 when I put it on, I want to say. So it's probably been just under 8 hours, so quite a while on my face. I would say it's not as bad as I thought it was, but it's still not good. It's just texturized so badly. It's just like, look at it and it's just like all of my pores. What's that fear when you're like scared of like holes? Like, if you had that fear and you looked at my face right now, you would be very upset. Obviously I'm going to zoom in for you. Just like on my forehead, it's just like proper like texturized and then just kind of separated. It just really does not look pretty at all. To be fair, it's still on my face. It's broken. It's not broken down too badly. Outer parts of my face aren't too bad. It's not terrible, but I don't love it. I don't love how it looks, but I can definitely think of worse wearing foundations than this. So I think I'm probably going to give it like a 6 out of 10 for wear. Yes, I'll give this one a 6 out of 10 for wear. Coverage, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because I do think it's pretty good coverage. Finish, I think I'll give it, I'm torn between giving it a 6.5 or a 7. Do I love this foundation? No. I'm going to obviously use it a few more times because I'm going to be talking about this one in my April-May recap. As of now, do I think I want to keep this once I've done that video anyway? I think I might get rid of it purely because of the colour issue. It's just really bad, and like I put so much white mixer in it and I still feel like it looks dark, and when that happens it's just like, do I really want to wear this? No. And like I just don't love the formula of it enough to overlook that. Sorry about that, because I know that this one has got some really good reviews on Boots. So, I mean, it really does depend on your skin type. For that reason, I wouldn't say I don't recommend it, just because I feel like there possibly is a skin type that gets along with this quite well. However, the shade range is absolutely awful, so it might be quite difficult for you to find the shade. It personally was for me as a very pale person, and it definitely does not go deep at all. Okay, so now we are moving on to the E.L.F. Flawless Finish Foundation. Last night, I counted all of the foundations that I have, and it was the grand total of exactly 50 foundations, which will be 51 when I get my next one in June. So originally I wanted to do this in 3 parts, but I'm thinking now maybe I should do it in 5 parts and then just do 10 per video, because I feel like if I do like 16, 17 per video, it's gonna get really long. I've worn this about 2 times, including when I used it in my first impressions. So I haven't really formed a solid opinion on this yet. This is in the shade Lily, which is the lightest shade, and it is a warm toned one. I'm going to add a tiny bit of this golden mix match adjuster from E.L.F. just to darken it a tiny bit. I don't want to put too much in, just because it is like a bit lighter than my skin tone, which, yay E.L.F, thank you for that, because that rarely happens. I have to start this again. That's better. That is a solid colour. Right, so I'm just going to pop this on all over my face. Foundation on. It still looks a tiny bit light for me, but that's fine. I'd rather something be too light for me than too dark, because it's easier to fix. I do like this foundation. I would say it's more on the matte side. It's still got a little bit of like oilage coming through. Coverage, I would say, is kind of like a light medium, I'd say. It's definitely not the best foundation for coverage, but that's fine. I do feel like it has quite like a fresh vibe, so maybe it is the sort of thing I'd wear on a day where I'm not like, oh my god, I need some banging coverage. But I mean, it covers reasonably well, definitely. Like, I look at my face and I don't think, oh my god, all of my imperfections. To finish, I do feel like it does emphasize the texture a little bit, if I'm being honest. It doesn't do it terribly, but like I can kind of notice it. Like, I don't love it. I definitely don't hate it. It's just a bit average looking, this foundation, to me. Like, it does the job, it's fine. I'd happily wear it out the house. I'd happily wear it full stop. I don't remember the times I've used it, what the wear was like, so that is what we are going to, for sure, find out today. So I'm going to go off camera and do the rest of my makeup and show you what it looks like when that is all finished. Right, okay, makeup done. So I used the L'Oreal Infallible concealer under my eyes. I used the Too Faced Born This Way and the rest of my face. The MAC powder plus foundation to set my face all over. And yes, so here's how we're looking. I mean, it looks okay. I just don't know what to think of this foundation. Like, I just feel like it could have better coverage. The finish could be a little bit nicer. Like, I do like it. I don't dislike it so far anyway. We'll see what it wears like, but like, I'm happy with how my base looks. Like, it looks fine. But anyway, we'll be back later to see how it wears. Okay, 8 hours later. It isn't looking pretty. Let's just say that. Like, my forehead is like, there is some mad texture, some mad breakage. It doesn't look pretty. Like, is that worse than the CYO one yesterday? I feel like they're both bad in different sort of ways. But yeah, it's really just does not look great on my forehead. Not great at all. And it's come like off. It's the same sort of thing really with that breakage and texturization on my chin. That's not great. And like kind of my under eyes around my nose. Obviously, as I've said before, it's never going to wear well on like this part of my nose and like kind of my upper lip. So just ignore that, pretend that doesn't exist. But still, like in my pores, it does not look great. Like again, outer parts, most foundations I don't really have a problem with that. So yeah, they don't look too bad, but it's not the best wearing foundation. Again, it's not the worst. Definitely not the worst. I'm going to give this one a 5.5 out of 10 for wear. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10 for wear because it's just not great. Like, it doesn't look nice, but it's not terrible. Therefore, I will give it just slightly over half for wear. So, coverage, I would say like a 6.5, I think, for coverage. Finish, I'll give it a 7 for finish. Will be nice in terms of finish because, like, to be fair, the finish isn't too bad really. I can't say that much bad about the finish. I think I may declutter it after the April-May recap just because I'm not in love with the formula. So the thing is, I do want to be sort of brutal because I do really want to minimize my foundation collection because 50 is too many, and I want my foundation collection to be for the foundations that I like, and I can know that I can open my drawer and just pick out anything, and I know that there's something, you know, for every you know, foundation need, because obviously I want different things on different days. Sometimes, like some days I want a banging coverage, some days I want something a bit more lightweight and natural looking. So I'm not going to go through these 4 ones that are kind of in my, like, I am 99.9% sure I'm getting rid of these, but they are going to get one final chance for this video. So in it we have the Free INA, which I think is how this is pronounced, or is it pronounced Mina? I'm not sure. This is the 3-in-1 foundation, which I don't even think I've used this on my channel at all, but I've used it a couple times, like, in my day-to-day life. Don't love it. I've got this POPFEEL Perfect Liquid Foundation, which is like a really cheap-ass foundation that you can get on Amazon. I think you can also get it on, like, AliExpress, basically any website where you get really cheap foundations or any makeup on. Didn't love this, but you know. Also got the Barry M Flawless Matte Finish Oil Free Foundation, which I don't hate or anything, but I just didn't like it enough to want to keep it. And then I've also got the Maybelline Dream Satin Liquid Foundation, which is probably my least favourite Maybelline foundation that I've tried. To be fair, I still haven't actually tried the Maybelline Fit Me foundation. Well, actually I have tried it once, like about 3 years ago, but that was back when it was in like a bottle. Now it's in like a squeezy tube, so I might actually retry that one at some point because I don't really remember what the one I had in a bottle was like. I think I'm going to use the POPFEEL one today just because I think this is the one that I dislike the most, and I'm not going out anywhere today, so hey, if I do this today I won't have to wear it in public. It is 5 PM when I'm filming this, so if I want a 7-hour wear test, which is what I like to kind of have minimum, I'm going to have to film it at like midnight, but that's fine because I stay up till like 3-4 in the morning anyway. This is like absolutely tiny, and it has got a doe foot on the thing. It's so pink toned as well, but like it's pink toned and it's orange at the same time. What I might do is just put it straight on and then maybe use like a lighter concealer or a lighter powder or something with it, just because I can't be bothered to faff around mixing it really. Probably have to build up some more, but I'm going to blend this in with my sponge. Yeah, definitely it doesn't really spread out that far, so I probably want to build up a bit more. Okay, so that's like 1 layer, but I'm gonna keep adding more because it needs it. Okay, right, I built up enough. To be fair to this foundation, it doesn't actually really look bad on the skin at all. Like when I look at it, like I don't really think, oh my god, that looks like such a horrible foundation. Like it actually looks fine. It's just so light coverage, that's the thing. Like the amount of product you have to put on to get like a decent bit of coverage is so much, and the bottle's so tiny, so it's just like, that's gonna be gone. Like if you use that regularly, it'd be gone in like a week, I think. Obviously we're just gonna ignore the color. I'm just gonna pretend that it's the right color and just focus on the finish. To be fair, the finish isn't really that bad. Like, I can see it sitting in my texture a little bit, but not really like badly. Like, I wouldn't say that it's a really bad texture emphasizing foundation or anything like that. I don't feel like it's much worse than your average foundation. It has got a little bit of dewiness to it, but nothing like overwhelming. And that's the thing, because it's going to be light coverage, I do want it to have like a really like beautiful finish on the skin and look really radiant and glowy and just sits nicely. But I wouldn't say it really does that. Like, it doesn't look super radiant and glowy. It just has a little bit of dew to it, which, I mean, it's nice, but I just don't look at this foundation on my skin and really just love the way that it looks. I'll give it something for not being cakey. It's quite lightweight, I'd say. If you're the kind of person that doesn't have a lot to cover on your skin and you just kind of want something to just kind of even out your complexion, I feel like maybe you could get along with this. So I don't hate this, it's fine. I'm going to get a bit close to the camera in a sec so you can just see how it really looks properly on my skin. To be fair, it does look quite like smooth on my forehead. Like, I would actually say I do like the way it's sat on my forehead. It hasn't emphasized lines or texture too badly at all. It looks pretty smooth up there. The only places where I can really see that it's kind of emphasizing texture a little bit is just kind of these parts around where my pores are, but this is kind of hard to avoid generally, even with the best foundations. I don't know how well you'll see on camera, like the fact that obviously there's still like just little blemish scars and stuff poking through, but I mean, I don't really know if that actually picks up well on camera because I don't have like super bad skin or anything, but it's more what I can kind of see in person. I am definitely a completely different colour to my neck. So I'll just finish off the rest of my makeup and show you how it looks. Okay, so I'm back with finished makeup, and to be fair, there's nothing really noticeably bad about how this foundation looks, like how my complexion looks generally. Like, it honestly looks fine. I used the E.L.F. Camo Concealer in Fair Warm, which is a bit lighter, so that did help me brighten it up a little bit. And then I set it with the NYX HD Translucent Pressed Powder. It's just, for me, I just feel like it's just not something that I will want to reach for. I just know that I would, if I kept this in my collection, I probably wouldn't want to pick it up. I wouldn't say like avoid this foundation, like don't get it. First of all, it's like super cheap. It's probably like £2 or £3 off Amazon, or I don't know, you can probably get it for like even cheaper than that depending on what website you're on. But so I mean, like, to be fair, like, it's so cheap, maybe try it. I wouldn't like not recommend it, but if you're someone that really wants coverage, or if you want like radiant dewy foundation, it's not going to give you any of those things. Anyway, I'm going to come back at about 7 hours time and see how this holds up, see what the wear's like. Okay, so it's actually 1 AM now, so it's been on about 8 hours. I have to say, it's honestly decent, the wear on this, I would say. I don't normally like doing wear tests in my days off, just because I'm literally like leaning on my face like all day. I'm just like submerging myself in like my dressing gown or my blankets or whatever. Whereas when I'm at work, I'm like kind of active and I'm like always doing something, so I'm not just leaning on my face the whole time. So there's kind of areas like on my chin, for example, and also like just around my whole mouth area and my nose as normal, just because I've been eating and stuff. It's just not looking great. But if I ignore those areas, I actually think that it does wear pretty decently. Like, the breakage is pretty minimal. It has got a bit weird, like right in the center of my forehead, I kind of see like these lines. I don't know if maybe I like touched my face in a weird way in that area, or like I've accidentally like kind of ran a nail on it or something, but I would actually say that the majority of my forehead actually looks really good. Like, it looks like there's very little breakage, very little texture, just a little bit of texture right in this center part here, but that's really not too bad compared to how some foundations look in that area. And like these parts of my face, like, honestly, it's really not that bad wear. It doesn't look amazing, obviously, but like, yeah, I feel like it's a bit creasy kind of looking. Like, it definitely, like, it just like settle into like lines you have in your face a bit after kind of having it on for a while. I think this wear's pretty good, actually. It's not the best wearing thing I've ever found, obviously not, but I don't feel like I can really knock too much off the wear for this, so I won't keep it. But then at the same time, I'm not saying that this is actually bad. I think that there are some good things about this. As I said, the wear actually not too bad. So for coverage, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10 because it's not great. It gets 4 because you can build it a bit which is something, just not a lot. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 for finish because it's decent, definitely nothing amazing. And wear, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because I don't really think the wear is all that bad. That's it for this foundation. The one I want to try out next is the Barry M Flawless Matte Finish Oil-Free Foundation. From my memory, it wasn't a bad foundation. I think the issues that I had with it was it wasn't very good coverage, and I don't think it had the best wear either. But if I remember correctly, the finish was like quite nice. I think it is also a little bit dark for me, so I think I need a bit of white mixer with it. Right, so I'm gonna mix a little bit of my E.L.F mix to match white mixer in with this. Did I say what the shade was? Is the shade Porcelain. It's the lightest one of this. I know Barry M has like another foundation. Obviously there's a foundation stick which I have got in my collection and will be in this video at some point. But they have like a full coverage foundation and I've never tried that one. But I feel like I've seen a lot of bad reviews for it, so I don't think I am gonna get that one. But I'm still sort of intrigued by it. Okay, that colour will do. Yeah, I can already just tell that it's not a great coverage foundation. Yeah, it's just definitely very light coverage. It's just not really the level of coverage I look for. It's definitely very dewy and radiant. So if you like light coverage foundations that are quite dewy and radiant, you might get along with this. The finish is like fine. Like I can see it sitting in my pores a little bit, but nothing overwhelming. So yeah, the finish is like pretty nice actually. I will give it that. It's just I just want more coverage. Like it's not even really better than that POPFEEL one if I'm honest. But yeah, I'll just get a little bit closer so you can see it close up. I kind of like how it's on the forehead if it actually wants to focus on my forehead. Do you want to do that? Cool. Yeah, it seems pretty smooth up there. It overall does look pretty smooth, I'd say. I can see it sitting my texture a little bit, but I feel like that's to be expected. See, I don't hate how this looks. I definitely need some concealer, definitely, with this. Part of me is thinking maybe I should keep some light coverage foundations just in case, you know, there's a day where I do want to wear something light coverage, you know. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the rest of my makeup and then show you how it looks. Okay, so I have finished the rest of my makeup. I used the E.L.F camo concealer under my eyes and on my eyelids, and I used the Too Faced on my nose and around my mouth, and those two are quite like full coverage concealers. So I feel like overall if you do use like full coverage concealers, you do get good coverage overall. But we will have to see how this foundation wears. But you know what, overall I think I'm liking it a little bit more than I thought I would. Like yes, it is very light coverage. I think it really just depends on how it wears. If it wears quite well, then I might consider keeping it. If it doesn't, then I probably will stick to getting rid of it. I'm going to work today, so I will be back at like 10 o'clock. So it will get like probably at least 7 hours wear test as usual. Okay, so I'd actually say it's probably been about 8 hours because I think it was about 2 o'clock I put it on and it's just gone 10. Okay, so this has been a little bit better than I was expecting it to. There are still some issues I'm noticing. Like it's definitely gone like a bit textured and kind of separated quite oddly on my forehead. But I mean, it could be worse. I don't love how that's worn on my forehead, but I've seen things well worse on my forehead. I feel like, again, like these outer parts of my face actually look pretty decent. There's not any like noticeable wear. It definitely has broken down quite a bit on my chin though. Yeah, it definitely has broken down quite a bit on my chin. So I wouldn't say that this is super great wearing, but it's also not absolutely terrible wearing. I think I'll probably give it like a 6.5 for wear. Just because I do feel like these like outer parts here actually look quite good, but obviously I have pointed out the issues on my forehead and my chin with some separation and like sinking into my little pores. So not great wear, but also not terrible. So yeah, I'll stick with a 6.5 for that. Coverage, I'm going to go with a 4. I'm giving it the same rating as the POPFEEL one because honestly I feel like they're pretty much the same. So I'll give them the same rating, 4 out of 10 for coverage. Finish, I think I'll give it a 6.5 or 7, and wear 6.5. So to be fair, quite similar to the POPFEEL one. I still feel like overall, I am considering maybe keeping it, but I think I probably will get rid of it. I will just leave it as a question mark for now. That is my opinions on the Barrier M Flawless Matte Finish Oil-Free Foundation in the shade Porcelain. Okay, so we have changed location. Everyone cool with that? Yep. So the foundation I'm going to do today is the Maybelline Dream Satin Liquid Foundation in 02 Fair Beige. I tried this last year, I think towards the end, like maybe September, August time, I don't know. But yeah, this is one of the ones that I'm gonna most likely get rid of, but we'll give it a chance today. It's a good shade though, like it's very fair, so. Obviously I love the Maybelline Superstay foundation, and I quite like the Dream Urban Cover one as well. Not as much as the Superstay, but I do quite like it. But this one, from my memory, I'm not a big fan of. It's really like thick actually, the formula. Colour is really good. Coverage, I would say it's not great coverage, it's like a low medium, I would say. Like it evens out your skin tone well, but I still feel like I can see like some redness and some like spots and stuff coming through. I don't love the finish, like it's not too bad, like it's not the worst finish ever, but it doesn't look like really smooth or really flawless or anything. Like, I'm just gonna get close to the camera. Like it looks okay on my forehead, you can see it's kind of gone into my lines a bit to an extent that's unavoidable, but you know, I don't know, I just don't feel like it looks super, you know, like flawless and nice. Yeah, sets my texture a bit. It's not like really bad or anything, like it's not a horrible finish or anything, I just don't love it. Okay, it's a nice enough foundation I feel, but I just don't love the way it looks. Like I just don't really want this on my skin, you know. Anyway, I'm gonna go finish the rest of my makeup and I'll be back. Okay, so I finished my makeup. I used the NARS Creamy Radiant Concealer. I used the NYX HD Translucent Pressed Powder under my eyes and on my eyelids, and then I used the MAC Studio Fix on the rest of my face. I mean, do I love my base right now? No. It looks fine though, like I would happily leave the house in it, so. I mean, I've got a feeling that I'm probably not going to keep this foundation. It just doesn't do enough for me, you know, like it's okay, it's not awful. But I just wish it had better coverage. I wish it had a slightly nicer finish. And from my memory, it didn't have the best wear either, but we will find out about that later. Okay, so it's 9:30 now. It was about 1:30, I think, when I put it on. I can actually look at the clock in the background and check that when I'm editing now. But it's been about 8 hours. Fair, like it doesn't look bad on like the bottom part of my face. Obviously ignoring like my nose and stuff where it normally comes off. My forehead just really does not look good. It's like proper separated and like texturized really badly. It does not look good. Just kind of all over my forehead really. Hopefully you can kind of see that on camera. Just it hasn't worn nicely up there at all. I feel like bottom part of my face though is not too bad. Like I feel like it's held up reasonably well. Obviously ignoring like my nose. It has actually broke down quite a bit on my chin actually, but I feel like again, as often is the case, these outer parts of my face actually look pretty fine. But really the forehead is kind of just letting it down really. So I definitely don't think I'm going to keep this foundation. I'm probably going to get rid of it. The coverage isn't great. The finish isn't terrible, but it's just nothing special. And the wear, well, my forehead, I just don't like this wear at all on my forehead. Coverage, I'll give it a 6. I'll give it 6 out of 10 for coverage, because it has got some coverage. It's not like completely nothing or anything, but it's just like a low medium coverage. So I'll give it a 6 for coverage. Finish, I think I'll give it a 6 for finish as well, because I mean it's okay, but it's just nothing special. Wear, I'm gonna have to give it a 5 out of 10 for wear. It's not a great foundation. It's definitely my least favourite Maybelline foundation, although I still need to try the Fit Me. That's the only one I've not actually worn. Okay, so now we are moving on to the Mina, I don't know what that brand is. This is the 3-in-1 foundation. This was the sort of foundation that I randomly bought like probably a year ago and like never really used. Like I've used it a few times obviously. It's in the shade 208. I'm like 99% sure I got it in the light shade. It's a little bit too dark, shocking. So I am gonna need a bit of white mixer with this one, I think. That's what the colour's like on its own. It just looks a little bit like orangey to me. I'm using a bit of this E.L.F. white foundation mixer with it. Yeah, that's light, I think. So what do you think of my crazy eyeshadow? I do things and I can never get them as neat as I want them to be, but I try. Right, so I'm going to apply this all over my face. I think I mixed up pretty well. Why do I always manage to get like eyelashes or freaking bits of hair on my face? I don't love how this looks. I mean, it's got some decent coverage, like a solid medium coverage, I would say. But it's just something a little bit kind of like textured, how it kind of looks on my skin. It's quite heavy, it's quite noticeable. I mean, maybe I did just put like a little bit too much on, but I don't know, I don't know. To me, it just looks a bit heavy and a bit like obvious that there's like a lot of foundation on my face. I mean, I don't know, what do you think? It's certainly not bad though, like it's pretty standard looking foundation, but I do feel like it's kind of sunk into lines on my face, like under my eyes, and got like a little line on my chin that is kind of settled right into. I don't look at this foundation and like how my skin looks in it, you know? With that in mind, I'm gonna go finish off the rest of my makeup and then we'll talk about it tomorrow. Right. I literally like lightly grazed my nose and like, look how bad it's gone. Like, look at that. I barely touched it. This is why makeup, it doesn't stay on my nose, it's just a nose. Like, I can just literally like, bleh. And it becomes texture city and just starts to break down. So obviously I've done the rest of my makeup. I used a little bit of the Revolution Concealer and Define in 0.2. I didn't put too much on just because I feel like we're already looking quite makeup-y with the foundation. And then I used the L'Oreal, what the hell is this called? Infallible Magic Loose Powder, which I've been liking lately. Set my face, and like overall, like it looks okay. I feel like my colour looks weird, like the undertones are just so different. Like my neck is, like my chest and my neck is like really olivey, and then my face is just very neutral, maybe leaning a little bit pink. But it's definitely like pale enough if you put white mixer in. It's just, I don't know, about the undertones. Yeah, I mean, just as I said before really, I just feel like it looks so makeup-y and very foundation-y, if you get what I mean by that. That's the thing, like I'm trying to be brutal in this video, and like if the foundation just isn't, if I'm not loving it, why keep it? Like, because there are foundations in my collection, like there isn't loads of them, but there's definitely like enough that I would need, but I either quite like or even love how they look on my skin, so I may as well keep those. And anything that's just kind of average, I might as well just get rid of it, because I don't need to have like 50 foundations. I'd be happy with 10, you know. I'd rather a smaller collection where I know that I like all of them, so that way if I use them up, I'll just repurchase it, if you get what I mean, as opposed to just having absolutely loads and then not reaching for half of them. Like I look like a clown. This is the sort of makeup that in my head I feel looked really cool, and then I did it and like I just feel like I look crazy. So yeah, I obviously started filming this really late. I think it was about 5:30. I was probably applying it. I can obviously check the clock back in the footage and find out for sure. So I'm basically going to have to check on this at like 1 AM to see what the wear's like, if I want to get like a good 7-8 hours. But that's fine, because I mean I don't fall asleep till like 4 AM anyway, so I'll be here. I just have to keep this on my face all day. It's 1 in the morning, so it's been on for like, I think it was 5:30, so 7.5 hours. I just want to get this makeup off my face. I'm like gagging to get this shit off of my face, especially this freaking eyeshadow. Right, so the wear, okay, this is the forehead. To be fair, like I don't think it's the worst one on the forehead, especially like just from this video alone. It's not too bad. Like I can definitely see where it has started to like break down and sink into the texture, like especially this part like right here. But it's not too bad actually. Like I've definitely seen worse ones in my forehead area, but there is definitely some issues I'm noticing, but definitely like a lot of like pore sinkage around this area. Obviously I'm going to ignore my nose because no foundation's lasted my nose. It has like kind of come off my chin, but I kind of think that's my own fault because I was kind of like sitting in bed and I had like my duvet kind of open with my chin, so I think that's kind of made it break down there, so I won't knock it for that. It definitely looks like it's been like on my face for a while, like yes, definitely. It's not the worst wearing foundation, definitely not the worst in this video, that's for sure. I think it wears not amazingly, but like decent. So right, for coverage I'm going to give it a 7 because to be fair it's decent coverage. Finish I think I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10 just because like I just feel like it looks foundation-y and it looks quite heavy on the skin and I don't love that finish, and I do feel like it emphasizes my textures a bit. And then for wear I think I'm just going to stick with like a 6 out of 10 for wear. Like it's like kind of a little bit above average but nothing like amazing. I definitely don't think I'm going to keep this foundation. It's just not really appealing to me too much now. But that is my thoughts on the Frina or Mina 3-in-1 foundation. Right, so the next foundation we're doing is the NARS Sheer Glow, and I'm going to work today so I can do a wear test in the conditions that I prefer. This is the newest addition to my kit and I have worn it like about 3 or 4 times already. I do like it. I don't feel like I'm in love with it as much as I was the first time that I bought it, although it was like the first high-end foundation I'd ever used. So it's a good colour match, very like warm toned, but it's not as yellow as the All Day Weightless Luminous, which for some reason is just like really yellow. This is just like a kind of normal amount of yellow. There is no time to dilly-dally today. I'm getting this on my face. Yeah, it's basically like a perfect colour, I think. Love the colour. Coverage is pretty decent. I would say like it's a solid medium coverage. I wouldn't say it's like full coverage, anything like that, but I personally like the level of coverage that it gives. I would say like a finish is nice. I love the radiance of it. Overall I feel like it looks pretty smooth. Like it doesn't like completely blur out my texture or anything. Like I can still see like my pores and stuff and like lines on my face, but I wouldn't say it emphasizes them too badly. I do overall like how it looks on the skin, but it doesn't blow me away. I'll get close to the camera just so you can see just exactly how it's sitting. Like it doesn't look perfect on my forehead or in my pore area, but it's not bad. Like we've had worse foundations I think in terms of the finish, but like the glowiness and the radiance is really nice. I'm glad that it's not like super matte and drying. So I'm gonna go finish off the rest of my makeup. I used the Revolution Conceal and Define in 0.2. I feel like this went really crepey under my eyes though, and like when I kind of set it, just had a bit of separation. But I tried to put some eyeshadow over the top to cover it. But I used this guy, and then I used the L'Oreal Infallible Loose Powder. What do you think? Do you think my skin looks good? Honestly, like I don't know. Like I think it looks like decent, like I'm happy with it. Am I just being too harsh? I like this foundation. I do like it, definitely. I'm obviously going to keep it because I literally just bought it and like it's a decent foundation. I'm not in love with it, you know? Like I think I kind of was when I first used it. But it's a nice foundation. It's nice enough. Finish is decent. Coverage is pretty good. I can't remember what the wear's like, but that is what we are going to find out today. Okay, it is 9 hours later. I don't look fun or fresh. I'm a bit underwhelmed with the wear of this one. To be fair, I mean it has been a little bit longer than maybe some of my other wear tests, and I have been like very active today. I'm like knackered. It's been one of those days at work. But there is definitely quite a bit of breakage and texture and all sorts. I'll start by showing you my forehead. Right in the center part is just proper like disintegrating. And it's kind of just like sort of coming off in areas like right in the center. It's just not looking great, my forehead. And then like kind of my pores, like normally obviously my nose, it never stays on, and sometimes I'll kind of get like areas around this part that it will fit, like come off as well. but I feel like it's coming out a bit more than it normally does. It's just kind of broke down like in these bits here. Get close to the camera. So, and then my chin, it seems to have completely come off my chin, and then it's just not looking particularly nice around these parts. The only bits that look fine really are these outer parts here of my cheeks, but they always tend to look okay. Ooh, even this bit like here, that's not normally a problem area. That's really textured. And on the other side. I'm a bit disappointed with the wear of this, to be honest. Like, considering it's a high-end foundation, you know, like I just feel like overall like I'm a little bit underwhelmed with this NARS foundation. And the thing is, it's expensive, and like I'm at the point now where obviously this is the second time I've bought it. I have tried a nice NARS Sheer Glow like 3 years ago, but I don't think I would buy it again after this. I'm going to go over 7 out of 10 for coverage because it is pretty decent coverage foundation, but it's not full coverage, so I'll stick with a 7. Finish, I think I'll also give it a 7 for finish, just because it is a pretty nice finish. I like the radiance. It doesn't emphasize my texture too badly, slightly, but not too badly. Overall, I do like how it looks on the skin when you first apply it. I would say I'm a bit disappointed with the wear though. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 for wear. I don't know if that's too generous, but I'll give it a benefit of doubt and give it a 5 out of 10 just because maybe it's a bit of an extremer situation than normal. I don't know, I feel like I'm at the point now where I'm just like expecting a bit more from my foundations. Like overall, I will keep the NARS Sheer Glow foundation because I'm not going to throw out a foundation that costs like £30. Like, no, no thank you. Okay, so we're on to our last foundation of this video, and now I'm basically just picking at random. I made like a list of all of the foundations and I've just randomly ordered it on my computer. And the next one that I'm going to try out is the Dermacol Makeup Cover Foundation, and I've had this for over 2 years, and it actually has an expiry date on the back of it. And it says 11/2018, so November last year. So this is about 6 months or so out of date, but I still have it, and I used it yesterday in my preparation for this video, and you know, it didn't seem expired. Probably shouldn't put it on my face, but I'm obviously gonna put it on my face, aren't I? Yeah, this is the last foundation we're gonna try out, and then I can finally edit part 1. I believe the shade is 208, which I think is the lightest shade. Obviously I bought it like 2 years ago, so I don't know if they've expanded their shade range since then, but I remember it wasn't a particularly great shade range. And it's a little bit dark for me, so I'm gonna put a bit of white mixer in. But see, the good kind of thing about putting white mixer in with this is because it's so thick, it sort of shades it out like a tiny bit, which I actually quite like, so I don't mind putting white mixer in. Yeah, I did like this one around the time that I first had it. I do remember liking it. Obviously, it's got insane coverage, as we all know. It's very oily. I wore this yesterday and like I was like, oh my god, I did not remember it. I knew it was oily, but I didn't remember it being that goddamn oily. But I did find that once I like set my face, the oil went away, so it wasn't like that big a deal. I didn't really look at the wear at all yesterday because I literally put it on really late in the evening, so I wasn't really paying much attention to the wear. From my memory of when I used it in the past, I feel like I had mixed experiences with it, where some days it would look alright at the end of the day and other days it wouldn't, so we'll see what it does today. I do feel like it is like a tiny bit pink. Not really pink, but a little bit, which I'd rather it not be, but you know. I'm not going to actually wear any concealer with this because you don't need to, really. I know some people actually like to use this as concealer, which in my opinion that was actually probably a good idea. It's definitely full coverage. I can't knock it for the coverage at all. It is amazing how much it covers. Like, I feel like it's literally just blanked out my face, if you get what I mean. As you can tell, it definitely has a lot of like oiliness to it. You do have to use quite a bit of powder, and if you don't like to use a lot of powder, you might have issues with that. I don't mind because I always use a lot of powder anyway, but I don't know how exactly this would work on oily skin, but you know, my skin's more normal. I feel like it looks quite smooth. I don't think it really accentuates texture too much. Like, obviously it sits in my pores a bit, but like there is no such thing as a foundation that doesn't do that, and I actually don't think it does it too badly, really. Not badly at all, actually. I think it's just a very like smooth looking foundation. Yeah, it does kind of like sit in my lines, but I think anything that's got like really heavy coverage is going to do that, but it's fine because I just pat it out before I set it and it should hopefully go away. I like it. I mean, it's heavy, you can tell it's there, but it's the sort of thing that once you do the rest of your makeup, it will look a lot better. So I'm gonna go prove that to you and do the rest of my makeup. Right, okay, makeup is done. I didn't put any concealer on, and I used the what the hell is it called? The L'Oreal loose powder. I've lost the lid. Infallible magic loose powder. Yeah, that definitely gets rid of like all of the oils. Like, I look completely mattified now. I do feel like it was like still quite a bit crepey on like my eye area, like even after setting, and normally this powder's pretty good at fixing that. So I do think that it kind of, the heaviness kind of affects that sort of area, but I've just gone over the top with like a bit of eyeshadow and stuff, just sort of cover it. That's what I tend to do if like I have some like separation or some like crepiness with my eye makeup. I always just put eyeshadow over the top of it. But overall, I do like how it looks everywhere. Maybe not my eye area, but everywhere else on my face, I think it looks really nice. Like, I look really covered. I feel like it looks smooth. I don't feel like I look textured at all. So I do really like the actual finish of this foundation, just maybe not in my eye area. I'm looking at my skin now. I think it looks good. Like, I definitely do feel like I really like the appearance of it. And like, yeah, you can tell I'm wearing makeup, but at the same time, I don't feel like it looks super heavy and super cakey. So I'm now gonna go about my day. Probably get about an 8-hour wear test out of this. I've had at least 8 hours wear test on this. I don't think it looks great, to be honest. It's not terrible, but I just feel like it looks very like texturized, kind of all over really. Like, it looks like it's been on all day, if you get what I mean. It's not looking super great. I'm getting close to my forehead. Yeah, I can definitely notice some proper like sinkage into the texture, and then like kind of right in my brows it started to break down quite a bit. It doesn't look fantastic, if I'm honest, and I just feel like, I mean, it doesn't look too bad in around these areas, but I feel like quite closer to this bit here it's really started to like proper kind of separate. And see, that's quite far out, because sometimes I do, obviously it breaks down like around my nose because of where I'm rubbing it, but I feel like that's coming quite far outwards, so that makes me think it's more of the foundation by itself doing that. It's also broken down quite a bit on my chin, to be honest. So I mean, I'm not super impressed with the wear, if I'm honest. Like, this is certainly not the worst, but I don't think it looks particularly great after a long day, which I kind of suspected was the case with this foundation. So a foundation where it has really nice coverage and it does look pretty nice on your skin initially. So how should we rate this? Coverage, I mean, I have to give it a 10 because it's full coverage. It covers everything, so I can't really knock any points off it for coverage because it's full coverage, you know? I mean, that is what it was made for. Finish, I think I would give the finish I'm gonna give it a 6.5. I do actually like how it looks. I think it looks smooth, and I don't think it emphasizes texture too much, but I'm kind of knocking some points off it because I don't like how it sits in my eye area. It just proper sinks into those lines really badly, and on my eyelids as well. And even when it's set with powder, it still kind of seems to poke through, and I'm using like my favorite powder at the moment. So I'll also knock some points off for the oiliness as well, just because it is a little bit too much. Wear, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, I think, for wear, because it's not the worst, but it's not great. I think I might get rid of this foundation purely for the fact that it is quite old now, and obviously the wear I find like a bit of a problem. Like, it does put me off using it. So I think I might have to get rid of this guy. It's just so old. I just feel like probably can't be good for my skin still wearing this. Also, I don't really like the colour of it, because I just feel like the undertones just look very different to what my neck is. So like, even if I like lighten it enough, I can still see like a difference in colour in terms of undertones. So we've had some good times, but I do feel like I'm gonna get rid of this. So anyway, that is actually the end of part 1 of this video. So I've decided that any new foundations that I buy from this point, it's my payday tonight, so I'm gonna be buying more makeup. I'm not gonna include any new purchases in this video just because they will be spoken about on my channel anyway, so I'm just going to stick with all of the foundations I currently have. Also, I'm going to put up a leaderboard on the screen when I finish talking of all of my little individual categories and ratings, so you can see what is at the top, what I think is a really good foundation, and what's more towards the bottom, just so you can kind of see it all like side by side in comparison. That might be helpful to some people, it might not, but it's fun for me to make. That's what's important. I probably actually should show you which ones I have decided to get rid of. So I'm going to get rid of the POPFEEL foundation. I'm going to get rid of the Maybelline Dream Satin. I decided I will get rid of the Barry M one. I am going to get rid of the CYO one. I am going to get rid of the MUA Pro Base. I'm going to get rid of the Mina foundation, and I'm going to get rid of the Dermacol. So actually it was quite a lot we're getting rid of. I did decide I wanted to keep the E.L.F one, even though I'm not mad in love with it. I feel like I want to keep it in my collection for now anyway. Thank you for watching. I will now stop talking. Goodbye.